and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan, and today we are tracking a major independent media investigation that completely challenges the official story behind India's deadliest aviation tragedy, the crash of Air India Flight 171. When the Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed, killing 260 people, the government's initial report, remember, pointed the fingers directly at the crew. But a new independent media investigation by the Caravan magazine reveals that a catastrophic, cascading electronic failure and not pilot error caused the tragic crash of Air India Flight 171. The deep dive report shows that the plane's automated software glitched, cutting off the engine fuel supply and locking the pilots out of their own controls. This completely turns the initial narrative upside down. Remember, shortly after the tragedy, which claimed, as I mentioned, 260 lives, India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB, released a preliminary report. That original story pointed the finger squarely at the crew. It claimed that just seconds after takeoff, the pilots panicked or acted intentionally, manually moving the cockpit fuel switches from run to cut off and instantly killing the engines. But the latest investigation breaks that narrative completely. The new claim is built on an unshakable foundation of hard, verified data, the plane's own satellite transmissions, maintenance records, and internal technical manuals from General Electric and Boeing. When we line up the timeline second by second, the laws of physics prove that the original official story is actually impossible. So let's look at the clock, and this is what the new investigation reveals. The flight spent exactly 32 seconds in air, starting at 8 hours 8 minutes 39 UTC when the wheels left the ground. The AAIB report claimed that 3 seconds later, at 8 hours 8 minutes 42 UTC, the crew manually shut off the fuel switches. But right at that exact second, the plane's sensors recorded that it hit its absolute peak speed of 180 knots. Now let's go to school level physics, because according to Newton's first law of motion, an object cannot keep accelerating to its maximum speed after its engines are dead. The cause must actually happen before the effect. If the pilot had manually pulled those switches at second 42, the plane would have immediately lost thrust and slowed down. The fact that it was hitting peak speeds proves that the engines were still running at full power. The government report also then claimed that a crew-assisted engine restart happened between second 52 and second 56. Remember, the plane took off at second 39. General Electric's engineering manuals, viewers, have revealed that a restart under those conditions was physically impossible. A restart could have only happened within the first 11 seconds. And for that automated system to even try to restart, the physical fuel switches in the cockpit had to be left entirely untouched in the run position. So this proves that the hands of Captain Sumit Sabharwal and First Officer Clive Kundar were nowhere near the fuel controls when the engine died. So what actually happened to the plane? As per this new investigation, it was a terrifying hidden electronic disaster. 15 minutes before the takeoff, the plane's main computers were already experiencing an internal digital glitch. Systems were failing in a domino effect across the plane: hydraulics, electricity, and safety monitoring. But because the safety monitoring system itself was glitching, the cockpit screens never warned the pilots. They were actually flying blind. When they took off and the landing gear was commanded up, the already degraded electronic network suffered a massive power surge. A high voltage power inverter in the back of the plane violently exploded. The blast hit the flight computer so hard that they completely shut down and rebooted mid-air. When those computers woke up, a software bug made them falsely believe that the plane was safely on the ground. Because the computer thought that the aircraft was parked, an automated safety protocol kicked in and the engine computer automatically cut the fuel supply at exactly 8 hours 8 minutes 44 UTC. Captain Sumit and First Officer Clive fought to the very end, trying to manually get the engines back to fire up, but the software flatly refused, locking the pilots out. Because of the massive corporate and regulatory pressures inside India and abroad to maintain the pilot error story, independent aviation experts and tech analysts had to quietly shift the core investigation work abroad. They've bypassed local bureaucratic walls by sharing raw satellite data, engine logs, and ACARS codes with international safety nodes to let the hard engineering data speak for itself. Because they knew that for the corporations, it was just easier to blame the dead crew. There are billions of dollars at stake here. Blaming human panic is a very convenient shield. If the crash was ruled as a pilot error, the airline and the manufacturer could protect their financial assets. But if the crash was blamed on a core mechanical or software flaw, it would mean grounding hundreds of Boeing 787s worldwide, resulting in a multi-billion-dollar corporate nightmare. What makes this tragic is that the issue was already known. As per this latest investigation, an internal Boeing bulletin going way back to December 2013 had explicitly flagged this exact vulnerability, warning that a failure in just one core component of this shared vast electrical network could result in a cascading failure of multiple major systems. Publicly, however, these risks were downplayed. Independent cybersecurity and aviation experts have also repeatedly warned that these specific aircraft models lack sufficient safety redundancy. They've publicly argued that the systems are too deeply interconnected, making a domino effect failure entirely possible. This investigation now carries massive consequences. For Boeing, it reopens a global conversation, as it should, about the structural safety and electrical design of the Dreamliner. For Air India and the regulator, it's a stark lesson against rushing to blame deceased crew members before a full, transparent, scientific inquiry is complete. Going forward, this story changes, hopefully, the landscape of global airline safety. It should serve as a monumental wake-up call regarding the dangers of over-automation. It proves that as passenger jets become increasingly reliant on complex softwares, we must ensure that human pilots are given the ultimate unblockable authority to override a glitching computer. The physics and the data have finally cleared the names of Captain Sumit Sabharwal and First Officer Clive Kunder, proving that they did not fail their passengers. The machine's software fatally failed them. That's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching.